From ancient plagues that shattered civilizations to modern pandemics that locked down the entire planet, disease has killed more human beings than every war in history combined. We are downing 10 epidemics ranked by their staggering death tolls, infection scale, and lasting devastation. Some wiped out entire populations in months. Others burned quietly for decades, claiming tens of millions before the world even noticed. Together, these outbreaks may account for over 1 billion lives lost. Which one claimed the deadliest spot? The countdown begins at number 10 with a mysterious plague that struck a city already under siege. In the 10th place, the plague of Athens struck a city already locked in a desperate struggle for survival. In 430 BCE, during the Peloponnesian War, thousands of refugees seeking safety fled behind the high stone walls of Athens. This extreme, unsanitary crowding turned the fortified city into a deadly infection trap. Over the next 3 years, an unidentified disease swept through the cramped population. Because no confirmed biological samples survive, modern scientists still debate the true identity of the pathogen, pointing to typhus, measles, or typhoid. Historians estimate that 25 to 30% of the Athenian population perished, with the mortality rate among adult military men reaching as high as 50%. This sudden, overwhelming loss of life completely shattered the social fabric of the Greek capital. Civic order collapsed under the weight of the dead. Desperate citizens abandoned sacred burial rituals, leaving decaying bodies piled near public temples and water sources. The loss of Athenian soldiers shifted the balance of war, permanently weakening the city. Number 9, the Antonine Plague became Rome's first great imperial pandemic. Sweeping across the empire from 165 CE to 180 CE, this devastating outbreak likely originated in the far eastern provinces before hitching a ride on Roman military networks. Returning legions, marching along the empire's famous paved highways, unwittingly carried the pathogen directly into crowded barracks, camps, and dense port cities. Historians estimate that the plague claimed around 5 million lives, with some hard-hit provinces losing up to 1/3 of their entire population. The ancient physician Galen provided a rare eyewitness account, documenting horrifying symptoms including dark pustules, burning fevers, and severe throat ulcers. These clinical observations lead modern researchers to identify smallpox as the primary suspect, though measles remains a secondary hypothesis. Unlike the localized crisis in Athens, the Antonine Plague exploited the massive scale of the Roman world. Its extensive trade routes, troop movements, and packed urban centers turned imperial connectivity into a fatal vulnerability, driving an empire-wide death toll that shattered the Roman economy and severely depleted its military ranks. Number 8, the Deadliest Epidemic of 1545 swept through the Mexican highlands with devastating force. Over the course of 3 years, a mysterious hemorrhagic fever tore through colonial Mexico, leaving cities and fields littered with the dead. Native populations called it Cocalisli, meaning pestilence. Modern estimates suggest this single outbreak claimed between 5 million and 15 million lives, wiping out roughly 80% of the local indigenous population. Recent genomic studies of skeletal remains point to a deadly variant of Salmonella enterica, though scientists still debate the exact biological mechanism behind the rapid spread. The catastrophic scale of the disaster arose from the interaction of disease with human suffering. The epidemic struck a population already broken by Spanish conquest. Imperial policies forced native communities into crowded labor camps, stripping away their land and traditional food systems. When a historic megadrought hit the region, severe famine settled in, weakening human immune systems and speeding the spread of the pathogen. Because colonial authorities kept highly incomplete records of indigenous deaths, the true toll of this ecological and human catastrophe is likely far higher than historical documents show. This catastrophic convergence of environmental ruin and colonial subjugation reshaped the entire population of Mesoamerica forever. Number 7, the Plague of Justinian struck the Byzantine Empire in the mid-6th century with apocalyptic force. First appearing in 541 CE, This highly lethal disease returned in repeated waves until about 750 CE, locking the Mediterranean world in a prolonged imperial crisis. Modern genomic testing of ancient skeletal remains solved a centuries-old mystery, extracting DNA that confirmed the pathogen was Yersinia pestis, the same deadly bacterium responsible for the Black Death. The disease spread rapidly through the empire's vast commercial networks. Fleas living on black rats boarded ships carrying tribute grain to the capital city of Constantinople, turning the empire's vital food supply into a fatal transmission system. Historical records describe a city where thousands of citizens died daily, leaving graves overflowing and bodies piled in public towers. Scholars estimate that this catastrophic pandemic claimed between 25 million and 50 million lives, wiping out 20 to 40% of the entire Mediterranean population. The sheer scale of the loss completely shattered the Byzantine state. With fields left unharvested and commerce halted, the empire lost its labor force, its tax base, and its military recruits. This catastrophic labor shortage permanently stalled Emperor Justinian's dreams of rebuilding the Western Roman Empire, fundamentally shifting global history. Sixth place, the third plague pandemic brought a terrifyingly familiar killer into the modern age. Beginning in 1855 within the Yunnan province of China, the lethal bacterium Yersinia pestis flared up once again. But unlike the slow-moving outbreaks of the ancient world, this industrial-era wave rode the cutting edge of global progress. Instead of caravans and wooden sailing ships, the pathogen boarded steamships and iron railways, hitching a ride on the rapid trade networks connecting international port cities. This unprecedented connectivity allowed the disease to strike farther and faster than ever before. By the time the pandemic officially subsided in 1960, it had claimed roughly 15 million lives globally. The impact was catastrophically concentrated, crushing India with an estimated 10 to 12 million deaths, while China suffered over 2 million losses. Yet, this global tragedy forced a massive turning point in how humanity confronted disease. In a desperate race to stop the dying, scientists identified the flea and rat transmission cycle, prompting cities to rebuild infrastructure and pioneer aggressive rodent control. Colonial authorities and local governments established coordinated port quarantines and developed early plague vaccines, turning a medieval nightmare into the foundation of modern disease monitoring. Number 5, the Spanish flu, stands as the most devastating respiratory pandemic in modern history. Between 1918 and 1920, a highly virulent H1N1 influenza A virus swept across every corner of the globe, infecting an estimated 500 million people, roughly 1/3 of the entire human population at the time. Unlike typical seasonal flus that claim the lives of the very young and the elderly, this aggressive strain tore through healthy adults aged 20 to 40, turning their own strong immune systems against them. The rapid spread of this lethal pathogen was fueled by the global chaos of World War I. Mass military mobilization packed millions of soldiers into cramped troop transport ships, overcrowded training camps, and unsanitary trenches, creating a perfect accelerator for transmission. When these infected soldiers returned home, they carried the virus to civilians worldwide. Compounding the tragedy, wartime military censorship suppressed early news of the outbreak to maintain morale, leaving the public completely unprepared for the incoming disaster. When the deadly second wave struck in late 1918, it killed with terrifying speed, often within hours of the first symptoms appearing. Modern estimates place the final death toll at 50 million, with some scholars arguing it climbed as high as 100 million. Even with a case fatality rate of 2 to 3%, the sheer scale of global infection meant that more people died from this single flu outbreak than in the entire 4 years of the war itself, reshaping public health systems worldwide. Fourth place, smallpox stands as one of history's most devastating and relentless killers. Caused by the variola virus, this highly contagious pathogen spread easily through respiratory droplets and direct contact with bodily fluids or infected skin lesions. By conservative estimates, it claimed roughly 300 million lives, with historical projections placing the cumulative death toll between 300 million and 500 million across human history. Before the advent of vaccination, the virus carried a brutal case fatality rate of 15 to 30%, leaving survivors scarred or blinded. While the Spanish flu struck in one massive, explosive wave, Smallpox terrorized global civilizations for thousands of years. It repeatedly altered the course of history, most catastrophically during European colonization, when first contact exposure decimated indigenous populations in the Americas, wiping out up to 90% of native communities who lacked immunity. Humanity fought back over centuries, transitioning from early inoculation practices like variolation to Edward Jenner's breakthrough cowpox vaccine in 1796. This historic advance laid the foundation for an intensive, coordinated global immunization campaign led by the World Health Organization. In 1980, after centuries of suffering, smallpox was declared officially eradicated, marking the first time in history that humanity successfully wiped a lethal natural pathogen off the face of the earth. Coming to the top three, HIV/AIDS represents a long-burning modern pandemic that fundamentally reshaped global health, medicine, and social activism. While scientists officially recognized the virus in the early 1980s, research indicates it began spreading silently across continents from the late 1970s. Over the decades, the virus has infected approximately 84 million people worldwide. According to current UNAIDS data, the cumulative death toll has reached around 44.1 million lives lost, a staggering figure that continues to climb. Transmission occurs through sexual contact, contaminated blood, shared needles, and from mother to child during pregnancy, birth, or breastfeeding. Before the development of effective medicine, an untreated infection carried a near 100% fatality rate, slowly destroying the host's immune system. This devastation was amplified by human factors. Severe social stigma, deep poverty, and unequal access to healthcare clinics accelerated the spread of the virus, leaving regions like sub-Saharan Africa to bear a disproportionately heavy burden of the global disease. Unlike historical outbreaks that swept through populations in short, violent waves, HIV has maintained a constant, decades-long presence. This persistent threat, combined with its massive cumulative mortality and deep social burden, accounts for its high position on this countdown. However, the crisis also sparked a historic turning point. Dedicated community activism and rapid scientific research led to the creation of daily antiretroviral therapy and PrEP. These treatments stripped the virus of its absolute lethality, turning a once fatal diagnosis into a manageable chronic condition for millions of people. In second place, the Black Death remains the most infamous and devastating bacterial outbreak in human history. Between 1347 and 1351, this terrifying wave of bubonic plague swept across Eurasia, carrying a catastrophic death toll. Historians estimate that the causative bacterium, Yersinia pestis, killed between 75 million and 200 million people globally. In Europe alone, the mortality was overwhelming, claiming 25 to 50 million lives, which represented 30 to 60% of the entire continent's population. Reconstructions suggest that the total number of infections worldwide reached between 200 million and 300 million. The rapid spread of this nightmare was driven by the global trade networks of the medieval world. Merchant ships docking in Mediterranean ports brought infected black rats and their flea hosts directly into crowded cities. Once established, the bacteria spread through flea bites, and it mutated into a highly contagious pneumonic form, allowing the infection to pass directly from person to person through coughing. The human cost was absolute. Entire families were wiped out, and towns were left completely deserted. The overwhelming terror triggered widespread panic, leading to extreme social isolation and violent scapegoating of minority communities. Yet, the massive loss of life also triggered permanent structural changes. The sudden scarcity of labor broke the foundations of medieval society, giving surviving peasants the power to demand higher wages. This demographic shift disrupted the feudal system, completely reshaping the economic and social structure of Europe for generations to come. And finally, in first place, COVID-19 represents the most intensely tracked public health crisis in human history. First identified in late 2019, this devastating pandemic was caused by the highly infectious respiratory pathogen SARS-CoV-2. Within weeks, modern aviation networks carried the virus to every continent, converting global connectivity into a vector for rapid transmission. Unlike historical outbreaks that spread slowly along overland trade routes, this modern pathogen infiltrated workplaces, households, and crowded indoor spaces almost simultaneously, exploiting shared air in closed environments. The scale of the outbreak is documented in raw, unprecedented detail, with over 770 million confirmed infections recorded worldwide. By 2023, official reports attributed roughly 7 million deaths directly to the virus. However, global health organizations quickly recognized that limited testing and reporting gaps masked the true toll. The World Health Organization estimates that between 2020 and 2021 alone, global excess mortality reached approximately 14.9 million. As the pandemic progressed through 2023, updated models incorporating indirect deaths from strained healthcare systems placed the total excess death toll at a staggering 22.1 million people. While the virus carried an estimated infection fatality ratio of 0.6 to 1%, the sheer volume of global infections drove the massive mortality. The world responded with unprecedented public health measures, including national lockdowns, school closures, mask mandates, and mass testing, culminating in the fastest vaccine development and rollout in human history. Ultimately, this modern crisis served as a brutal stress test for international surveillance, revealing deep inequalities in healthcare access and testing preparedness across a hyperconnected planet. Across all 10 global tragedies, one truth emerges. Our greatest strength, our connection, is also our deepest vulnerability. Microscopic pathogens do not just infect bodies, they exploit the very networks we build to thrive. These crises prove that humanity's fiercest battle has never been against empires, but against the invisible. Which history-altering outbreak surprised you most? Let us know below.